I teach a few of them, particularly things that students haven't quite thought about in the level of depth that we expect them to. Things like just thinking about torts, for example, with looking at some of the catastrophic injuries that people have suffered, and particularly the fact that some of the students may have heard of the cases or they might know people that have been involved in similar cases. Once we teach that material, students can sort of have a reaction to it. And I try to draw their attention to that before it happens. So I make them aware that, South Australia is a small state. It may well be that you know someone that's been in this situation or this case, and you need to be aware that maybe this won't be emotionally easy, but you need to put things in place to make sure that you can get through the material, whether that involves coming and talking to me or someone else involved in the topic, or going and seeing a counsellor or whatever it might be, so that you have things in place to help you through. My advice would be to think about how you want to phrase things during the tutorial before you go in, particularly that first one. After that, it sort of comes to you naturally, but that first one, you really need to think about how you want to talk to the students and how you want to warn them about what's coming their way. Not in a bad way, but just in a way of making them aware of the fact that some of this is a little bit difficult.
Particularly if you're teaching personal injuries. I don't shy away from the fact that personal injuries sometimes are quite unpleasant, and I think it's inappropriate in a negligence context, for example, to pretend that everything's done by Walt Disney. It isn't. And I like very factual scenarios, if necessary with a bit of blood. What I usually say, setting out a scenario or discussing a scenario in a case we might be looking at, is, look, this is upsetting. This stuff is upsetting. I find it upsetting, so I'm sure you will. If anyone wants to leave before we describe it in detail, step outside for 5. I've done that on numerous occasions. I've never had anyone actually take me up on that, but I wouldn't mind if they did. So I think if there's nasty stuff coming up, it's appropriate to warn students and give them the opportunity to not partake if they wish. I think that's your duty as a teacher.